Hey there, Dave Altavilla for HotHardware here with one of my favorite notebooks ever. And that is the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Yoga with OLED display, specifically a 14-inch organic LED display. Beautiful, punchy display. This is actually the second gen of the machine that I use as my daily driver to get work done on the road. This has been retooled with new materials and a newly redesigned keyboard, as well as Intel's 7th generation Kaby Lake Core i7 series processor under its hood. So let's take it for a spin and see if this machine can make the cut as well as my daily driver. Lenovo's ThinkPad X1 Yoga 2nd generation machine with OLED display is built on a very similar chassis platform as the previous gen, with a few minor notable tweaks and upgrades. It sports a fabulous 14-inch organic LED display with native resolution of 2560 by 1440 and 10-point multi-touch capability as well. In addition, Lenovo has upgraded the internals of the machine to Intel's 7th gen Core i7 series Kaby Lake processors, specifically a Core i7 7600U dual core at 2.8 GHz with a 3.9 GHz turbo boost, and Intel HD 620 graphics is powering our machine. Also on board is a 512 GB Samsung NVMe solid state drive and 16 GB of system memory, which unfortunately is soldered to the board and not upgradable. Also on board is 802.11 AC Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.1 connectivity, and all of that technology is backed up by a 56 watt-hour 4-cell battery. Side by side versus the previous gen ThinkPad X1 Yoga with OLED, the differences are readily apparent and subtle in spots. Lenovo made some slight changes to the keyboard function key assignments, but more obvious here with the 1st gen machine on the left and the 2nd gen machine on the right is that Lenovo now employs a slightly more flat matte finish on the machine. The good news is that carbon fiber polymeric hybrid on the top and magnesium poly hybrid on the bottom now resists fingerprints much better than the previous gen X1 Yoga. In addition, the ThinkPad X1 Yoga 2nd gen now incorporates what Lenovo calls a new wave-style keyboard with a new rise and fall mechanism that pulls the keycaps down into the typing deck when inverting the X1 Yoga's display into a wider than 180-degree yoga mode. The previous gen's lift and lock mechanism required a keyboard plate to lift up and lock the keys into place. The bottom line is, this simpler mechanic improves the durability and offers a cleaner aesthetic for the machine around the keyboard area with no protruding parts once it's locked into place. I/O options have also been revamped with the new X1 Yoga 2nd generation machine. On top here, you're looking at the new model with 2 USB-C Thunderbolt 3 ports, both with rapid charge and anti-fry protection. These ports will charge the X1 Yoga up to 80% within an hour. They'll also protect the device from poorly designed third-party USB-C chargers beyond the included AC adapter brick that Lenovo gives you with the machine. You also get a pair of USB 3 ports on this edge as well now. One of them always on for charging, but no DisplayPort output option, unfortunately. On the right edge, the volume rocker has been removed. It's an option we can't say we'll really miss, but the power button still resides here, along with a single USB 3 port, a full-size HDMI port, headphone jack, and a mini RJ45 port with an included dongle for hardwired gigabit Ethernet connectivity. And finally on this side is the Thinkpad Pen Pro dock, which also charges the stylus pen when slid into its silo. Unfortunately, on the rear edge, we still have the concealed SIM card and SD card slots, which remain difficult to access, especially when the lid of the machine is open so the display is visible and the machine is awake. It's certainly better than not having these storage and connectivity options at all, but would much rather have them on either side edge of the notebook for much easier access. But the X1 Yoga's 14-inch 2560 by 1440 organic LED display more than makes up for this small shortcoming with its fantastic brightness, contrast, saturation, and overall image fidelity. Deep blacks and punchy, vivid colors and super wide viewing angles are the hallmark of an OLED display, and the X1 Yoga's display delivers these for sure. Until you've seen an OLED display in the flesh and experienced it for yourself, it's hard to appreciate just how impressive the technology is. In addition, a number of manufacturers, including Dell and HP, have introduced OLED display technologies in their notebook lines, suggesting that there's critical mass now and warranty support behind the display type. For those who are concerned about possible burn-in issue, we've tested several notebooks to date with OLED displays from various manufacturers, and so far for us, burn-in ghosting hasn't been much of a problem. The keyboard area of the ThinkPad X1 Yoga 2nd Gen is otherwise largely unchanged, again, with the exception of its wave, rise and fall retractable keycaps for various yoga modes. There's a large, matte finished 3-button trackpad here as well that feels great and is extremely responsive, including multi-touch gesture support. Keycaps themselves are shaped and offer great tactility with deep key travel for comfortable typing. I mentioned the X1 Yoga 1st Gen machine is my daily driver system currently, and no doubt it's because Lenovo makes some of the best notebook keyboards in the business. Thankfully, the X1 Yoga 2nd Gen continues that tradition admirably. Finally, of course, this machine also gives you Lenovo's fully articulating 360-degree hinge with the X1 Yoga series that allows it to contort into various modes like tent and stand mode, which can come in handy, especially in more media consumption usage models where a keyboard isn't required and the touchscreen is used for input and control. Another input method, of course, is the Thinkpad Pen Pro, which does a really nice job of precision tracking of strokes on the display and sensing pressure to determine line thickness. All told, the Thinkpad Pen Pro, though a bit of a tongue twister, works quite well, especially in the Windows 10 Ink Workspace app. Performance-wise, the ThinkPad X1 Yoga Gen 2's combination of Samsung NVMe SSD and Intel Kaby Lake Core i7-7600U series processor, as well as 16 GB of RAM, offer exceptional Ultrabook class responsiveness and throughput. The SSD offers about 2.5 GB per second of read performance and 1.5 GB per second of write throughput, which translates to speedy boot times and application load times, as well as excellent I/O responsiveness in bandwidth-heavy applications like video editing. In stated benchmarks, the ThinkPad X1 Yoga Gen 2 hangs with the best of breed out there currently in Ultrabooks, scoring in the top quadrant of the latest machines we've tested, sometimes even grabbing a top spot. Things can get a little toasty on the bottom side of the machine at times, but it's not excessive or uncomfortable. The bottom side is also where the machine's speakers are located, which doesn't help audio fidelity all that much, though the X1 Yoga Gen 2 again offers respectable sound output, at least for an ultralight notebook. In terms of battery life, the ThinkPad X1 Yoga Gen 2 delivers solid uptime and again lands in the top echelon of Ultrabooks that we've tested to date. In fact, with its OLED 1440p display competing against many 1080p IPS notebook offerings this time around, clearly its slightly larger 56 watt-hour battery is now allowing the system to stretch its legs a bit longer. All told, and a few very small caveats aside, the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Yoga Gen 2 is a pretty great laptop, and we have no problem giving it a coveted Editor's Choice Award at HotHardware.com. For about $2,400 as configured and tested here with the Core i7-7600U processor, 16 GB of RAM, a 512 GB SSD, and that beautiful OLED display. For sure, it's still a pricey machine. Base models, however, start at $1,680 with a 1080p display. You could save a few $100 at least dropping down below the 2K mark for the machine with a 256 GB SSD option and maybe the Core i7-7300U, but we think the OLED display is worth the extra plunge. Regardless, make sure you stop by HotHardware.com for our full review and hit that like button if this video was good for you, and subscribe here for more tech review deep dives, event coverage, and our always snappy 2.5 Geeks webcast. It's Dave Altavilla for Hot Hardware with the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Yoga Gen 2 with OLED. Thanks for stopping by.